Welcome back on this series on SRE Demystified. I am Dr. Ganesh. In this episode, we are going to look at various types of SLIs and how do we choose them. So, who is an SRE or what is a typical job that an SRE does? We have covered it in our previous videos. An SRE write code, build pipeline, provision infrastructure, monitor dashboard, and a lot more. So I urge you to look at my previous recordings in case you wish to know more about SRE. And what are the key metrics that are associated with an SRE? SLI, SLO, and SLA. Again, I urge you to look at my first video in this series in case you wish to know more about them. In this episode, we are going to look at SLOs and SLIs, primarily SLI, but let's quickly recap how SLOs help. For a product, from a product perspective, for example, if reliability is a feature, when do you prioritize it versus other features? From a development perspective, how do you balance the risk to reliability from changing a system with the requirement to build new cool features for that system? And from operations perspective, what is the right level of reliability for the system you support? Keeping that in mind, what is SLI? Service level indicator, which indicates how was that service being done. So it is a ratio of the good events to the valid events multiplied by 100%. Or you can say the good events divided by good events plus bad events together, which are valid, times 100%. So the fact that it is a percentage means if it falls between 0 and 100. 0 means nothing works and 100 means nothing is broken. Good, right? And they have a consistent format which helps us in analyzing various other different parameters and values consistently. Things like error budget, which we have seen in our second video, and SLO analysis, reports. Everything works around good events, valid events, and SLO threshold. So what is the menu for you today? The SLI menu consists of all these items. For a typical request response process, you have availability, latency, quality. For data processing, freshness, coverage, correctness, throughput. For storage, durability. So your job is essentially understand what service you are thinking of, which SLI to choose. Choose one SLI from the menu. For example, choose availability. Understand availability. Check if it is applicable for your system. If it is applicable, think of what metrics you will look at and then how do you implement it. So what is availability? It's essentially the proportion of valid requests served successfully. We are saying valid requests specifically, not all requests. So if I want to turn this into an implementation, I have two choices to make. Which of the requests in this system are valid and what makes the response successful. So a request is not valid. For example, maybe if while sending that request the server went down, or the network went down, which is not probably part of our side on the client side, then it may not be applicable to the server if we are dealing with the server on availability. The server is still available. If the request was made successful, I am ready to serve you. Here, how do you understand if the particular request response is successful? For a request response service, maybe a sample success failure indicators could be the HTTP response code. For example, percentage of HTTP GET requests for a particular page of the web page that have 2xx, 3xx or 4xx status measured at the load balancer, because the load balancer is right next to the client. Or the availability of a virtual machine could be defined as the proportion of machines minutes that it was booted and accessible via SSH. So we have to list down all possible availability SLIs for our system that we deals with. What about latency? The suggested specification for a request response latency is SLA is the proportion of valid requests served faster than a threshold. Turning this specification into an implementation means which requests are valid and what threshold differentiate between requests that are fast and slow. Maybe percentage of HTTP GET request for a particular page that send the entire response within X millisecond. See that page example / profile / user, likely that there is a picture associated, maybe a profile pic, which may take some time to load, and I am measuring that the total time to load is within that particular millisecond the time at the load balancer. Now how do you choose the time? Maybe based on the business requirements, historical data, whatnot. And comes quality SLI. The suggested specification for a request response quality SLI is proportion of valid requests served without degrading quality. Again, the rules is same. So let me take an example. Maybe at an increasing load, what is the quality with which the service was still served? Am I serving with the same quality as a previous load, as lower load, or how am I degrading? Is it a graceful degradation? All this comes into picture. There are a lot more types of SLIs. I request you to refer to the Google's SRE books or the URL given here as a reference. This include freshness, for example, for a batch processing system, how fresh the data is getting processed. Are you getting the right data processed, which is latest and new? Or coverage, how much of the data you are getting covered when you do a batch processing? Or throughput, which is a complement of your latency. Correctness, how much of the valid requests are served correctly, and so on and so forth. So based on your given system, you need to identify the type of SLI and then start preparing SLOs. Thank you. I hope you are liking these videos. Feel free to share, subscribe, give your comment, feedback. Thank you. Bye.